In this presentation, we'll talk about the process of building and submitting your nursing clinical entry application. Nursing requires each student to view this application workshop once per semester, but serious students will appreciate its importance to them and use it as a reference whenever necessary. Each advisor strives to give students the best advice possible. However, with so many facts to remember, omissions can occur. It's in the student's best interest to review these presentations as often as needed to feel confident in the advice being offered. If you feel the advice you've received is different from the facts in these presentations, please ask. The accompanying handouts are the most up-to-date information available and are designed to be a reference for you. It's your responsibility to ensure you understand the information in the presentations and in the handouts. If you will approach your nursing application like a job application, making sure you understand exactly what's expected and how to maximize your points, then you will have done everything possible to enter nursing when it's time. We'll provide an overview of the nursing clinical entry application process, describe when and how you can access your application in ETC, describe the policy for allowing students to apply for both programs, explain how to finalize and then submit your application for nursing entry. Please listen to and watch Part 2 of the presentation for strategies on how to make your application competitive. Often students miss the cut by 1 or 2 points. Part 2 may help you find those little extras that make that difference. In addition to viewing this presentation, please download these helpful handouts for more detailed information and to use as a reference in the future. Entry into the clinical nursing program is competitive because there are more applicants each semester than available seats in the clinical program. Associate degree nursing students are typically accepted in August and January. There are about 100 applicants competing for the seats we offer. Due to recent budget cuts, we are unable to guarantee numbers of available seats. There's also no guarantee that entry will happen every semester. So far, this hasn't been a problem. Because there are more applicants than seats, the application process uses a point system to rank applications. The top application point totals gain entry into the program. For example, in a recent semester, the point range for the admitted applicants was a low of 60 to a high of 108. You must have at least 38 points to submit your application. Practical nursing numbers appear on the next slide. You accumulate application points for things like the courses you've taken and the grades you've earned in those courses, your technical GPA, how well you perform on the TEAS entrance test, and a variety of other things. Be sure to watch Part 2 of this presentation to learn more about how you can best accumulate application points. You can continue to reapply for fall and/or spring entry if you don't receive entry into the program right away. Practical nursing students are accepted in August for fall entry and in January for spring entry. Typically, there are about 100 applicants competing for those seats. In a recent semester, the accepted point total range for the top practical nursing applicants was a low of 64 to a high of 103. You must have at least 34 points to submit your application. The same information applies to practical nursing. Due to budget cuts, we can no longer guarantee numbers of seats available, nor entry every January and August. But so far, we have been able to do this. So how do you begin your clinical entry application? Well, believe it or not, as soon as you're admitted to Tri-County Technical College, construction begins on your application. Way before you decide to submit the application, all of the foundational building blocks are being assembled behind the scenes in our student information system, where your academic record is housed. To access your clinical application, you must meet the eligibility criteria required for submitting it and send in an online form to verify that you viewed this presentation. The online form is found in the list of handouts to the right of the screen. The eligibility criteria for submitting the application include taking the TEAS entrance test, maintaining an acceptable GPA, completing patient care training, and satisfying the prerequisite biology requirement for your program. Each of these is explained in more detail in separate presentations and described in the handout called Qualifying for Your Program. As soon as you're granted access to your application, you should review it carefully. This will give you time to verify all the information and make any needed corrections. When you're eligible, you'll review your application by logging onto the ETC portal, going to the Get Set tab, then clicking the link in the Plan My Schedule channel. Here's a short video showing you how to access the application.
Once you log on to ETC, you can find the tab marked Get Set, click there, and choose under Plan My Schedule your nursing clinical entry application. When you click to continue, you'll be taken to the question of whether you're attaching your background check receipt or not. A yes is worth 1 point. It needs to be attached to your application. Please check your information to identify you. Scroll down, review your information, make sure everything is correct, and at the bottom you'll find the points scored.
Again, as soon as you're eligible, be sure to view your application right away. There are 2 steps to finalizing it. First, be sure the information on your application is correct. Even if you don't plan on submitting it right away, you want to allow time for any corrections to be made to your record. If you do need to make corrections to courses you've taken or grades in courses, contact Marilyn Angeli in Student Records. Be sure any credentials from other schools are showing when you view your nursing clinical entry application. If not, you may contact admissions for a review. This request must be made at least 1 week prior to the application deadline date. A minimum of 38 points must have accrued for a student to submit the ADN application, and a minimum of 34 is required for practical nursing. Studying the application worksheet is a good way to become familiar with the point totals. The criteria and instruction sheet handout is vital to understanding the process. The second step to finalizing your application is to click Answers on page 1. Question 1 allows you to select the situation that applies to your method of satisfying the patient care training requirement. If you need information about the patient care class, there's a separate video for this. Question 2 asks if you've ever attended a clinical nursing class here, not including AHS 117. After you finalize your application, you may submit it. At this time, there is no electronic submission. You submit a printed copy to FULP 401. A nursing student with access to both the associate degree nursing and practical nursing applications may submit both. If you don't see both applications when you click the link, you don't have TEAS scores for access to both. If the associate degree nursing application does not result in the offer of a seat, the practical nursing application will be used as consideration for a seat in the practical nursing program for that student. You must submit both applications to be considered for both programs. The student will have the choice of accepting or declining the practical nursing seat if offered. Remember, to submit an application for either program, the student must have scored at least 38 ADN points or 34 PN points. When you're ready to submit the application, you'll print it out and follow all the steps for turning it in person to FULP Hall on the Pendleton campus that are listed on the criteria and instructions handout. If you choose to mail it, it must arrive by the deadline date. A student who wants to enter nursing clinicals in fall will submit the application between May 15 and May 31 at 5 p.m. A student who wants to enter clinicals in the spring will submit the application between September 1 and September 15 at 5 p.m. If the deadline falls on a weekend or holiday, the deadline becomes the next business day. Friday deadline is 2 p.m. Refer to the criteria and instructions handout for details on when, where, and how to submit the application. After you submit your application, you'll receive a confirmation email in your Tri-County account. email account within 3 business days of the nursing department receiving it. Then approximately 3 weeks later, you'll receive an email in your Tri-County account notifying you of acceptance into the clinical program or of the need to reapply for the next semester. Again, refer to criteria and instructions handout for more details. In summary, your nursing clinical entry application is automatically built in our student information system beginning with your Tri-County enrollment. That's why making good choices in the courses you take and how well you perform in them is so important from the very beginning. You're able to access your application if you meet the eligibility requirements for submitting it and you have verified that you watched this presentation. Students will get view access approximately 15 days prior to application dates. You will access the application online in ETC, finalize it, then print it before submitting the printed copy. You will receive notification of acceptance or denial via your Tri-County email account. You've completed Part 1 of the application workshop. Click the handout to the right called Verification Form. The submission of this form will satisfy the application workshop requirement. Please move on to Part 2 to hear about strategies for maximizing your point total. Remember, those extra 1 or 2 points can make the difference between acceptance or denial. Thank you.